You've already started to listen to a MultipleSources.net podcast, and for more episodes of It's Always Sunny in Phoenix podcast, as well as other content such as other NBA teams, pro wrestling, and even comic books, oh what? Visit MultipleSources.net. And if you want to join the MS family, go to their website. MS is always looking for more writers and other podcasts, as well as video editors. If you want to join the family, just go to MultipleSources.net and check out the sidebar or something. They got something set up. Check it out.
Hello everyone and welcome to It's Always Sunny in Phoenix, a weekly podcast keeping you up to date on everything Phoenix Suns basketball. Today we're going to talk about the first 2 days of the Las Vegas Summer League. And I'm your host Charlie. I have David and Mitch with me today. What's up, guys?
Pretty excited. We're recording a little differently. I'm actually sitting right next to Charlie, and we got Mitch on the phone. We're talking with him. We just got done watching Summer League and having a good time, so I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, Summer League has been awesome, and you guys have met IRL, but I still haven't. I'm still the lone cyber person, I suppose, so that'll have to change at some point, but it seems like you guys were having a ton of fun at Summer League, and saw you on the starters, and that was hilarious and awesome. So, yeah, I'm excited to talk about Summer League.
Oh, yeah. We're having a blast here, and let's just get into the Summer League. First of all, let's talk about the Suns game yesterday against the Portland Trail Blazers. And the Suns looked good. They looked very efficient on both ends of the floor. And what really made me happy was the intensity and the chippiness that we showed in the first game of Summer League. Didn't see that coming, but that was a blast. What do you guys think?
Real quickly, just when you start watching the game and you start watching our starters, we went with a big lineup. Big as per se, but didn't really have the spacing issues with Chris, Big Sauce, Bender, Booker, and Ulis. Which having Ulis in a lineup and calling it the big lineup is kind of fun. But I really enjoyed how all of them played. Enjoyed watching their hustle, I guess I should say, and I'm really excited for the future.
Yeah, that's all really, really good stuff. The thing with that big lineup is with Bender on the floor, yeah, he's 7'1", but he can play so much smaller, and I mean that in a good way. He can play the 3, but he's 7'1". That's just something that we're not accustomed to seeing, and we're going to have to get used to that. But, yeah, it was fun. It was really, really fun and great to watch this team. One thing that I really liked was when things were getting really chippy, Devin Booker and Noah Vonleh kind of got into it a little bit, and Marquise Chris rushed to Bender to Booker's defense pretty immediately, and it's these guys are already sticking up for each other. That's a veteran move, and this was Marquise Chris's first Summer League game, so that was really cool to see.
That was really cool to see. Watching the backcourt, those two guys are really close, as we kind of talked about in earlier pods. But watching Booker and Ulis play together, and watching Ulis kind of just play in general, makes me really love the guy. I'm really excited to watch him in some real NBA situations. Against Portland, he went 3 of 4, didn't attempt any three-pointers, but went 5 of 6 from the free throw line. If you're into plus or minus, he was a plus 14. And, I think his game's really showing up and showing just the kind of thing he is. He had 11 points. That was lame. 11 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds, it looks like, 3 steals. Yeah, he just had kind of an all-around game for a point guard, and he was our second-round pick.
Yeah, that was a great game out of Ulis, and the first thing I noticed out of his game was an assist to his buddy, Devin Booker, on a fast break for the dunk. That was great to see. Then I think 2 possessions later, Booker returned the favor, found Ulis wide open for an easy J, knocked it down. I like the chemistry those two have right off the bat.
Yeah, that chemistry is already starting. And another thing I want to note, which I said this on Reddit already, so if any of the listeners here have found us through Reddit, you might have read this already, but Dragon Bender had a bit of a tough game. Shooting-wise, he went 4 of 13 from the field, 1 of 7 from 3, and 3 of 6 from the free throw line. And that's kind of tough. You want to come out and, get started on the right foot. But in Devin Booker's post-game interview, he mentioned that last year in Summer League, he missed like his first 15 shots. And he's been telling Bender, like, keep your head up, don't worry, like, it'll come. And Bender still has to adjust quite a bit to the NBA, but he will, and it'll come. And I remember a little bit of, like, people being nervous about Booker, like, oh, this kid is supposed to be this spot-up shooter, but he's missed all these shots. Like, it's Summer League. Like, it'll come. This is an adjustment period.
The thing I liked about Bender the most was he wasn't hesitant out there. He was getting his shots up. I think maybe that was our game plan, to get him involved right away, get him his shots. But even though they weren't falling, he kept putting them up, and he was playing hard all over the court. And one more thing about the guy, he's a 7'1" gazelle. The way he moves, it's amazing. I haven't seen anyone move like that.
Yeah, he moves great, and he's really fluid on and off ball. Just something you've seen really in the last 2 days, where he's kind of been running with the ball a little bit. He hasn't done it a ton, but it's been something to see, and he has a really unique skill set, both him and Chris do. And watching those guys kind of play off each other, something that Coach Watson actually mentioned during his interview. He wants those guys to be able to play off each other a lot, where they're kind of doing pick and rolls, and one of them is the ball handler, the other is the roll guy, all that. And you can kind of see that they can both do it, and I'm really excited to watch some of those plays.
Oh, yeah. And Bender's shooting motion is nice. He is very fundamentally sound.
Well, if we're talking about nice shooting form, let's hit Devin Booker a little bit right here.
Yeah,
He's been fantastic
yes.
so far in Summer League. It's only been 2 games so far, but both nights he's put up over 20 points. Looks confident out there, and maybe it looks like he shouldn't even be playing in Summer League. He looks that much better than everybody else.
Right. Well, and I guess you guys didn't hear this because you didn't get to listen to the TV broadcast. Unfortunately, no, not at all. But this is probably Booker's last game for Summer League. He's probably only going to play the first 2 because he's on the U.S. select team that's going to scrimmage the Olympic team before they go down to Rio. So he's going to do that. And like you said, he doesn't really need to be playing Summer League. He's lighting these guys up, and you don't want to risk injury. But it'll be great experience for him to go play the Olympic team.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for some Olympic action, to see some of the younger guys that have been in the league only a couple of years to be able to be on that Olympic select team, and be really looking at Booker's game, especially during and after. This is a good stepping stone for those young guys, and when they get the chance to be on it, this just means more good things to come.
Oh, yeah.
Well, David and I should be very thankful that we got to see Booker play tonight.
Yeah.
And that matchup versus R.J. Hunter, very entertaining. But we'll get into that later. Let's talk a little bit more about Saturday's games at Summer League. And the one that stuck out was the matchup between the top 2 picks of Simmons and Ingram. Lakers versus Sixers. I know David watched a bunch of this one. What did you think about that?
Yeah, I watched about the second half of this game. I watch a lot of Lakers games. It comes with being from Orange County and stuff, and being so close to LA. So it is what it is. But I watched a bunch of that. Larry Nance looked really good. He was dunking a ton, of course. Brandon
Former
Ingram
Wyoming
was
Cowboy.
Yeah. Larry Nance getting them dunks in. We knew that he was going to have those. Brandon Ingram was having a really tough time with the physicality of the game. That will come. He's a really thin dude. I think I told both you guys that he looked like Jack Skellington out on the floor.
Yeah.
Dude's super thin, like ridiculous. I do not remember seeing a guy running out there that thin, but that will come. I think he'll be able to add a little bit of muscle onto that frame and start getting a little bit better. That'll come as the years come on. But even without the physicality, his shooting motions never looked like they were lazy or sloppy. He may have looked bored, but his shooting motion was still spot on. I think he was mainly just getting really exhausted from all that physical play. Of course, D'Angelo Russell played like garbage the first half of the game, and if you watched his post-game interview, he agrees.
Yeah.
He played terrible, but he was able to show off a little bit of that ice in his veins, hitting that 3 to end regulation and win the game for him. I really enjoy watching D'Angelo Russell play. All right, and on the Philadelphia note, of course, you got to talk about Ben Simmons. He almost had a triple-double, but almost had a quadruple-double if you count turnovers, so I'm not going to talk about him as much. Jeremy Grant, his dunks were really good and were really killing some of the Lakers' momentum, I thought. And TJ McConnell, former Wildcat, right?
Yes.
Wildcat? Yeah. Looked really good. Hit a really acrobatic layup to almost look like seal the game for the Sixers if it wasn't for that Lakers or D'Angelo 3. Sorry. So just really good play on both sides. Really competitive. Summer League was rocking when you could totally hear it through the broadcast. And even though Lakers didn't trail for any amount of time, or didn't lead for any amount of time, they were able to pull it out.
So we also had the Nuggets versus Grizzlies and Spurs versus Warriors on Saturday. Any notes about those?
The Nuggets versus the Grizzlies was very lopsided. It was a 106-62 win for the Nuggets. I watched this game because the Nuggets are my second favorite team, and I am liking the Grizzlies for new reasons now that I may be able to disclose later. But anyway, I was pretty impressed with Peter Corneli from France. He played pretty well. 19 points, 7 for 11 shooting, 7 rebounds, a steal, a block, only 2 turnovers. He was pretty good. Jamal Murray struggled a little bit, 2 for 11 shooting, but said the same thing. It's the same thing with Bender. These guys will get used to it. And then Jimmer Fredette had 26 points. Didn't see that one coming. He hit 4 threes. Another West Coast Conference guy that I'm not super fond of, but whatever. For the Grizzlies, they scored 62 points, so what can you really say? They struggled a bit. Wade Baldwin IV, their new point guard, he had some flashes. He's pretty athletic. He was getting to the rim pretty well, but he was 2 for 10 on his shooting, 0 for 3 from 3. But, he looked pretty promising. And, yeah, these guys will settle in. They'll get used to it. But, yeah, I watched that one. So.
Yeah, and I watched a little bit of the Spurs and Warriors game. I don't really have a whole lot to talk about. Kyle Anderson is still slow-mo Kyle Anderson. But Patrick McCaw, his name?
Yeah.
Patrick? For whatever reason, I wanted to say Peter McCaw. Not that. Patrick McCaw has a pretty good shooting stroke, and I think he's going to be pretty good off the bench for the Warriors. And he has a very interesting hairdo going on with he's got kind of the high top thing going on, but he also wears a headband. So that's interesting. That's all I have to say about that game.
Speaking of hair, sorry. Did you
that's
see Justice Winslow's hair? It was, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like one spot has like a big poof, and then one's really flat, and then the front has like some tip kind of things. I have no idea how to explain it. It kind of looks like someone just like ran over his head with a lawnmower, like a small like head-sized lawnmower. Like he looks, I'm not gonna say normal, but like it's worth looking up. He's got a pretty interesting hairdo going on.
So we interrupt this great podcast that you're listening to. My name is Kevin Rayfuse.
I'm Tim Tompkins.
And I'm Justin Kuzart.
And we host the Drive and Dish NBA podcast.
We cover every team in the league and a bunch of really fun segments like Random NBA Player, Drive and Dougal, and Hot Takes from Reddit.
So when you're done listening to this podcast, give us a search on iTunes or whatever podcast streaming app you're listening on.
We're also at driveanddishpodcast.com. We are the Drive and Dish NBA podcast.
But let's hop into Sunday, talk about the Summer League a little more. David and I, like we said, we're down in Vegas. We checked out a bunch of games. We made a little cameo on the starters at the end of the night too. So if you saw that, we were there. But anyways, let's get into the beginning of the day. We showed up and it was the Bucks versus the D-League Select. So we got to see Thon Maker play some basketball. How old Thon Maker is, we don't know. We couldn't tell. He may be in his mid-20s, but he looks pretty young. Who knows?
I mean, I don't have much to say about Thon Maker besides a ton of prime jokes. I may or may not have been saying those a lot today. He had a pretty decent game. Went 1 of 4 from 3, but 7 of 15 overall, 2 of 4 from the field, 17 total rebounds. He had 6 personal fouls, but he had 2 blocks and 17 points. He had a pretty good game. He looked fine out there. He is very thin, and seeing him in person, he's just really thin. And I would be a little bit nervous about his shoulders. When you look at someone like Scal or you look at someone like Dragonbender, they have wider shoulders, so they look like they can put on a little bit more weight and muscle and still kind of look thin. He looked like he had as wide as shoulders. Maybe that's just me being a little bit not right next to him, but that looked like something. He's really thin. He definitely needs to put on weight.
You know, it always gets a little easier to put on some weight the older you get, so that's pretty surprising.
So he should already have that weight on.
Exactly, yeah.
The only other person really from the Bucks is Malcolm Brogdon. I really liked his shooting stroke, and I think he's going to be a pretty good pick because he was like a second-round pick he ended up being.
Right.
So I think he probably could have gone a little bit sooner, but he's going to be just a shooter. And but I liked him. I thought he looked like he's going to be able to add some spacing to that Bucks lineup.
Yeah, and one more thing, if you said he's just a shooter, I caught him I caught him taking care of the ball really well today, handling the ball. That was surprising. I think I saw him bring the ball up once or twice, and he looked pretty smooth, so maybe he has some room to grow in that still, but
yeah, he had like 4 assists, so he did pass the ball a little bit. Of course, I'm being a little bit general, but I don't think that he's going to be asked to be the point guard in Milwaukee. That's Magic Giannis's job.
Yeah. Okay, so after we saw the Bucks and D-League Select play, we kind of split up the next 2 games. We saw a bit of the Wolves and Raptors and a bit of the Kings and Rockets. So let's start with the Wolves and Raptors. And the first thing I have to say is Chris Dunn is going to be a very exciting player in this league in a hurry. He has all the tools. I'm just wondering how much playing time he's going to get with Rubio still there. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I really like Chris Dunn. I keep on forgetting that he's actually on the Timberwolves. Otherwise, I would have been a lot more willing to watch more of that game than we did. just watching him, he was sagging off of his guy, looking to jump passes, not routes. Football apparently is what I'm thinking of. Looking to jump passing lanes. He was no hesitation when it came to scoring. No worries about being physical. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch, and I think he's going to force Minnesota's hand when it comes to the Rubio situation.
One thing I heard, I think it was J.A. Adonde who was interviewing him. Adonde was making a Gary Payton comparison, and I'm interested to see what you guys think about that, having seen him in person.
I think the defensive potential is there. A lot of the physicality, I think, is there. I don't think that's a bad comparison. I've started to put a stake in a Reggie Jackson comparison.
Oh, okay.
You know, I think he's gonna have kind of some high turnover rates. I think that's definitely gonna be an issue for him. But I think he'll be able to play through it and be a good enough player to where it's not as much of an issue. But they've both got a really long wingspan. Both are pretty athletic guys, around 6'3", 6'4". That's the comparison I'm sticking with, but I don't really mind the Gary Payton comparison. I think that he definitely has that defensive potential.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. So let's move on. Talk about the Kings and Rockets a little bit. The Kings, we saw some really nice stretches from all their young big men, and that was the one thing that stuck out to me. How about you guys?
Yeah, you know, watching Skal Labissiere and Willie Cauley-Stein standing next to Skal just really shows how thin Skal still is, of course. I would hate to see Thon stand next to Willie Cauley-Stein, because Willie Cauley-Stein just looks really built right now. And he had some really nice moves. I am really rooting for Skal because he fell so low. I think that he's going to be a pretty good pickup for the Kings with how low he went. And he had a couple of flashes, some moves, and his jump shot looked good. I'm excited to watch him play with the other Kings guys and watch him develop.
Yeah, I wasn't able to watch most of this game. I was watching the YouTube stream and it just wasn't very good. But the guys I was watching was Kyle Wilcher and David Stockton, the Gonzaga guys, and you know I don't really think either of them are gonna make NBA rosters, but that's another reason why I love Summer League, is because that's when the Gonzaga guys get the most playing time usually in the NBA. So yeah, I mean there's been a couple exceptions, but it's good to see those guys, and like the Rockets played the Hawks the other day and Kevin Pangos played against Kyle Wilcher, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, that's all I really watched in that game.
Yeah, and we got a little bit of Glove the second versus Stockton Jr. action going on, and that was kind of fun. Stockton had a block on a Glove the second layup attempt. Yes, I'm gonna just call him Glove the second because I think it's funny. But I didn't mind what I saw from Glove the second at all. Really, I kind of think he's gonna be fun and wouldn't mind seeing him get that roster spot. I think he got a guaranteed deal from the Rockets. I feel like that might be wrong, but I'm excited to see him play a little bit. And your boy Kyle Wilcher, man, he looked. When I said Kyle Anderson looked slow as ever, so Kyle Wilcher.
Yeah, you know, Wilcher isn't the fastest guy to start out with, but one thing that I've read, because I followed Kevin Pangos last year pretty closely with his summer league, and Pangos wasn't a slow guy. He wasn't super fast either, but he wasn't slow by any means. And one thing I saw a lot of people writing about was saying, like, this time of year for guys like that who are trying to make teams, those guys are exhausted because they're working out with teams. They're playing a ton of D-League games. They might be working with European teams even. So they're just playing a lot and they're exhausted. So that doesn't help a guy like Wilcher who isn't super fast to start out with.
Yeah, and I think he walked past us a couple of times.
He did, and I had to ask David, who was that guy? Because some little kid ran up to him and asked for an autograph, and he just looked like kind of like an average Joe in the stands, but taller, obviously.
Huh.
It was really tough to tell who was actually like on teams and playing in the summer league and who wasn't, especially with the guys that were kind of like more guard oriented and a little bit shorter than the obvious 6'8" guys. There were a couple of times where guys were getting given autographs and stuff, and I was like, I have no idea who this guy is. Is he just some random guy that just is walking around in a team shirt?
Yeah, we snapped some pretty creepy pictures today. I guess you could say they're creepy. Like, I got one of Damari Carroll. David got one of Lillard and McCollum, right?
Oh my! So with McCollum, I felt like such an oblivious idiot. No joke. I see this guy walk kind of like in front of me. I was sitting in the 4th row, I think, of the second gym when I was watching the New Orleans and Utah game. And I'm sitting there, and I'm 4 rows up. I'm pretty close, and you can see everything that's going on. And this guy like walks by, and he's wearing this funny shirt, and it looked like a random jersey that I had no idea what it was. And all these kids like run down out of the bleachers, and I think they're being kids and all that stuff. And then they come back, and I see that they had signed C.J. McCollum stuff, and they were talking about how C.J. McCollum signed their pictures. And then I look over, and the random guy that was just in that jersey that I couldn't make out, it was C.J. McCollum that just walked by the front and was giving autographs and stuff. And I look over, and Damian Lillard's standing right next to him. I felt like an idiot. But I got some great pictures of them talking, so it works out.
Beautiful pictures. Beautiful.
Anyway, so as I said, I was watching the New Orleans and Utah game, and really, there's 2 guys that I want to talk about, and they're on New Orleans, and that's my boy Buddy Hield and Cheek Diallo, actually. So Buddy had a tough game defensively, but had some great spurts on offense. He had some not so great spurts on offense as well, but had a couple stretches where he looked like Oklahoma Buddy. He had 21 points. He went 7 of 20 from the field, 5 of 14 from 3. Pretty bad. If you're into plus or minus, he was a -10. His defense wasn't there. He was fine position wise on defense, but he got lost a couple of times, and you could just see it where he kind of got spun around and went running out to someone that wasn't there. I hurt a little bit, but it was great to watch him play, and he had a couple stretches where he looked really good offensively, where he hit a 2, hit a tough layup, hit a 3, and then was cutting really well and looked pretty decently. But Cheek Diallo, I was not sure what to expect from him, but he had 2 blocks from what I saw. I guess he ended with 4. Had a couple of nice little moves and a nice putback dunk. I'm really excited to see how he does. He went 5 of 7 from the field. He was hitting high percentage stuff. 11 rebounds, it looks like. I'm just really excited to see what he can do. He looks a little shorter because I think he's supposed to be a power forward. But I'm excited to see what he can do in New Orleans and see if he can develop a little bit and get to play alongside as a small ball forward with Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I think he could possibly fit in early on in the season. I mean, put him next to Anthony Davis and things should really be okay.
Yeah, no joke. Especially with a couple of those blocks and stuff. Having another shot blocker next to Davis will really help him out.
Exactly. So let's go move on to the next one. After that game, we caught a bit of the Sixers and Bulls. We got to see Ben Simmons. And he played some pretty good ball. He got the jumper going, which surprised me. Some tough shots went down for him. Had a nice dunk, too. He was impressive. And the guy on the Bulls that I liked watching was Denzel Valentine. He played pretty solid. You can tell he can do it all. Only being 6'5" or 6'6", whatever he is. He can play multiple positions. He can guard multiple guys. I think he'll have a nice future in Chicago.
Yeah, actually watching Denzel Valentine, he picked up Ben Simmons a couple of times on defense. There was a noticeable height difference, and I didn't really expect that and didn't notice that as much when I was watching him in college. But you could see that he has a little bit more of the guard size. I'm not sure if he will be a 2 or a 3. I think he can probably play either one. But I'm really excited to watch him. I really hope that his knees are fine. There was some talk that they might be a little degenerative. I hope that's not the case, and I really hope he can have a good career because I kind of like the guy. I'm rooting for him.
All right, let's get on to what we need to talk about, what we should be talking about. Suns versus Celtics. I know we both had a blast at the game tonight. It was a pretty entertaining game, and I'm going to just come out and talk about Devin Booker versus RJ Hunter right off the bat. If you happen to watch the broadcast on ESPN2 tonight and you heard someone yelling at RJ Hunter, that was me. I let him have it all game, and the refs. We're in basketball season. I'm pumped. I'm ready for basketball to start again. I was pretty vocal tonight.
I didn't know you could complain to refs in Summer League, but apparently you can.
I did.
And I was ready to start complaining too. I was glad that you picked it up because I didn't want to, but it definitely felt like basketball season was back, even though it's not and it's Summer League. But Devin Booker, of course, he went 7 of 17, played for 30 minutes, a little bit under what he played in Portland. He had 24 points. He was, I think, the entire game high. Yeah, game high, 24 points, and just looked a step above everyone else. Even some other guys that have been in the league aren't rookies. He looked like he was on another level. And when you said that in the broadcast they were talking about how my goodness, that he wasn't going to play anymore, he doesn't need to. Excuse me, sorry. Sorry about that. But yeah, he doesn't need to. He was just a step above everyone else, and I'm so excited to see him with some of the other guys playing with a healthy Bledsoe and all that during the season.
Yeah, and another thing I forgot to mention that they said in the broadcast was that he actually wasn't even supposed to play in this game, but he found out it was on ESPN2, and so he really, really wanted to play, and he asked the coaches if he could, and they said okay. So
yeah. He was definitely giving it a little bit of extra tonight. It seemed like he was really going at it. He was talking smack. Or I guess talking to himself is what he'll say he was doing. But definitely talking smack, and it was a lot of fun. And it's one of the big reasons why I like Booker so much is he's got a ton of passion. Another guard, of course, we'll just talk about real quick. Tyler Ulis only went 4 of 11 from the field, but his hustle, just watching it in person and watching him just be on his guy like no other was insane. I don't know how many times he had his hand on the ball, but it seemed like a bunch. It looks like he had 6 steals. Not surprising. He got 10 points, so 6 steals, 10 points, 5 assists.
We're making it.
Okay, so Ulis, all those steals, those were great. But some of those were almost block shots. As soon as a guy would bring the ball up to put it in his shooting form, Ulis smacked away 2 or 3 of those, and he was just all over the place. For a second-round pick, I am very excited about him.
Quick hands, super scrappy. And the stat sheet says 6 steals, but he had his hands in the passing lanes and touched, got deflected passes more than that, and he had a really good game. He had some pretty nice passes too. He had 5 assists, but he was making it happen. Him and Booker were also both plus 20, and then Chris and Big Sauce were both plus 17.
Oh, that's great.
So
And
that's pretty
Chris,
cool.
while we're talking about that beautiful defense by Ulyss, Chris was all over the place tonight. Quite a
Yeah.
few nice block shots up
man.
at just meeting guys at the peak and sending it back. That was a lot of fun to watch, and he showed some
Yeah.
nice moves on offense too.
But-
And he missed a couple putbacks and alley-oops, but the
Yeah.
dude can fly. Good things are coming from him. I'm excited about him.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but if we're talking about block shots, we have to talk about the Booker.
That was right
LeBron
at the
chase
beginning of
down
the game too.
block. Oh my
That
gosh.
got the crowd going.
Yeah, and well, and when I saw that, I was like, oh, I wish I was there. But I'm like, oh, you guys are. I'm sure it was great to see him.
Dude, he swatted that off the glass. He sent it back the other way.
Yeah.
He's like a chase down artist now all of a sudden. I think he had a couple of nice ones during the regular season last year too.
Yeah, but I hadn't seen him do anything quite like what he did tonight, and maybe it's because it's summer league, but it still got me. I made a sound actually. I was just watching alone, but I went woo or something like that.
Yeah, I was definitely making some noise after that one. And let's
that and the
go ahead.
Oh, that and the first Chris putback dunk.
Right.
That was pretty exciting as well.
Well, let's talk about Chris's counterpart at the power forward position. Talk about Dragon Bender a little bit. He had a pretty slow game tonight, and it seemed like he spent a lot of time on the bench, actually, which was surprising after how many minutes both our rookies played last game. But you can see the signs with Bender. The jumper wasn't falling tonight. That was obvious, but that's something that will obviously come. A lot of these guys are getting up their shots and not having a lot of success, these rookies. But just the way he moves, the way he thinks out there, the way he handles the ball and passes the ball, you don't see that out of a 7'1" guy. And I'm going to write him a pass for the below average shooting tonight, I think.
Yeah, and he played 30 minutes, but it didn't seem like it. The thing that I liked about Bender tonight was, his shot wasn't falling, but he recognized that, and he started setting a lot more screens and making extra passes and trying to get other guys set up. So he only had one assist, but he was still helping guys get set up, whether that was from a screen or just being in the right spot, filling the lane correctly, that kind of stuff. Yeah, you can see the wheels kind of turning, and he's figuring things out, but he's still got a lot to adjust to.
Yeah, and just with Bender, he actually played 30 minutes, so he actually played about 30 seconds more than Chris and Big Sauce.
Oh.
I think a lot of that was in the fourth quarter. But he knew his shot wasn't falling. I know I was telling Chuck that I just wanted him to keep on shooting, but he was, as you said, he was not trying to force a shot. If he had a look, he was going for it, but he wasn't going to try and just jack up shots like some other guys will. And
Right.
he was involved still with the offense. He was setting screens. He was getting passes, and he was still enough of an offensive threat. He was able to the offense was still able to keep on moving even with him being largely ineffective just in general.
Anyone else we want to talk about tonight? Maybe a little Big Sauce. Got to throw in some Big Sauce.
Oh, Big Sauce. He was pretty pumped up. He was having a good old time, and he was really fired up. Took a couple of fouls his way and the other way, I guess you would say.
He dealt some punishment.
Took some punishment, exaggerated some punishment, I'm going to say. But he was pumped up. I don't know if you could hear it as much during the broadcast, but you could hear him yelling when guys were setting screens, just barking out stuff, barking out ice, barking out a bunch of other stuff like that. He was pumped up, and that's the Big Sauce that I love. It was a lot of fun, and even though we didn't really we only got him in about 10 games, I think it was, during the season. that passion was there, and he's a lot of fun to watch.
I think he's definitely solidifying a roster spot, and man, maybe even some playing time with these two rookie power forwards we have. You can tell he's the leader of the squad out for the summer team. He's definitely the loudest guy out there, barking everything out, and that's so helpful. And, you know, at Summer League, we had some pretty decent seats. It's general admission, so we just snuck up as much as we possibly could throughout the game. I think we were 7 or 8 rows back by the end, center court pretty much, so it was just a great view. We got to hear it all. Just great experience.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay, and then just quickly, after the game was over, we headed out into the concourse on our way out of the arena, and the starters, the TV show / podcast, were broadcasting just right outside. So we walked out. We got some screen time in the background there, and they brought out Bender for the interview, which was really cool, even though I thought they kind of highlighted the player of the night. Or am I off on that?
No, yeah, I thought it was a little odd that they brought Bender out after he had
just 3 points,
game,
but yeah,
he gave a really good interview.
He's great with the media. He's man, for being 18 and not having English as your first language, he handles himself pretty well up there. That was cool to see.
Yeah, I was just watching if you've recorded the starters or anything or watched it, you can see Charlie and David pretty clearly wearing the Sun stuff, standing kind of in the back. I was taking pictures. I was pretty excited to see him on there. It was
we
a lot of
were
fun.
throwing some stares at the camera, maybe some goofy face. We were hamming it up. We were having a good time, that's for sure.
Yeah, working the camera.
Well,
for
when
sure.
you're as good looking as David and I, you can do that. You can get away with it.
Yeah, it was very apparent.
All right, guys. I think that's going to do it for this week, though. We had a blast at Summer League, and next week we're going to be talking about that a little more. So be sure to follow us on Twitter. Handle is @SunnyandPHXPod. And then check us out on Facebook under the name Phoenix Suns, multiple sources. Send us an email with questions or suggestions at sunnyandphxpod@gmail.com. And we'll see you next week for more Summer League talk and some Olympic talk. Go Suns.